just to play football, but that's not Celtic way. I wanna show Glasgow was the place to go. A model of the Curwers football prize. Make the set full of the best. Get it with much success. Got the trophy and paradise. Let's see you watch up, come on. And it gave us kids like glory and Paul's Day. I want you to right away. They gave it constant gully back to Monarchy. Most of the Baltics are bastard Packers kids. And they play football, but that's not Celtic play.
Right, I'm back here. We're back live and we'll get the Bull Jonathan back on now. Stay there with us. And a little musical interlude. That was Anspoded. We play every home game at the Hoops Bar. I'm reliably told.
Hello, Tommy.
Yes, how you doing, my friend? What are you saying about it? Where were we?
I know that some of your sharper fans and listeners will be
What are you trying to say?
themselves,
You trying to say I've got some dumb? There's no dumb people here. They're all sharp as tacks. We're all sharp as a fucking tack, Jonathan.
come on. Tommy, come on. We know that there are some people from the NSA listening in on this, and that doesn't apply to them.
A few brain dead zombies, yes, indeed. A few brain dead zombies and Zionists are monitoring it, yes.
And the odds Rangers fan.
Who? There is no Rangers fans.
Rangers.
There's no Rangers left. There's Sevco. Sevco will let you off once, but if you get anything like that wrong again, you're banned for life, Jonathan, until the next time. Sevco. So repeat after me. It's Sevco.
Sevco.
Good boy. Right, on you go. Carry on.
Yeah. Some of your listeners may be saying to themselves, well, didn't Blackpool in 2011 have a similar sort of season to Hull in 2009? And they are right. There are similarities between Hull in 2009 and Blackpool in 2011, but for two crucial exceptions. One, Blackpool under Ian Holloway was run on a shoestring budget, and he made it very clear that because the finances were so tight, it would be a miracle if Blackpool stayed up Premiership. Whereas at Hull, they were spending money like tap water, and it wasn't even money that was theirs. They were a bit like the banks, borrowing on the never, spending other people's money. They nearly spent themselves into oblivion. And the second difference was the way the two teams played. Blackpool scraped for every single point and every single victory in the second half of 2011. They did everything they could to stay up, even during the final game of the season at Old Trafford. I think they took the lead twice at one point in that match, and they lost 4-2. But they never gave up, whereas Hull, well, they gave up just before New Year, didn't they?
You're right. They certainly looked that way, yeah.
Although I do have to qualify it with that, with the proviso that Blackpool's main striker in 2011 was, ironically enough, DJ Campbell.
Ah.
Now, I'm not saying that DJ Campbell did anything untoward at Blackpool. No evidence of that whatsoever. But I think there is clear evidence that Blackpool made an effort to stay up, and that Ian Holloway tried his hardest to keep Blackpool in the Premier League. And you never know, Ian Holloway could become a future manager of Celtic. But I think we can definitely now send Hull out to lose. I think the boardroom were defrauding their fans and their investors. Phil Brown was sending out his team to lose, and in order to get his team to lose, he had to recruit a lieutenant, a mole, a quisling on the playing staff, someone that would be above suspicion, someone that the other players on the team would trust and take their cues from. And the person who fit that bill was Nick Barmby, former England international.
Absolutely fascinating, Jonathan. I knew you wouldn't let me down in this one, mate. Carry on. Any more?
Well, I have got one on a slightly different subject, but I'm afraid to bring this up because, one, I've got no proof. It's, again, stuff I've done off the top of my head, and I personally feel it would be disrespectful. It's one of these what-if scenarios that could be a conspiracy.
Go on then. A conspiracy, an embryonic conspiracy. We'll put this down as the moronic embryonic conspiracy stage.
Yeah.
So this is in the propagation. We're putting the hydroponic lights onto it, and we're here to grow this up into a full scale conspiracy.
I hope you, Tommy, and no one else listening will take offence to this. I'm just stating something hypothetical here.
No, well, hold on. If people can take offence, then hold on. Tell me what the subject's about first.
Hypothetically.
No, we'll not deal with it. If it's Nelson Column, we'll not deal with it.
Nelson's column.
No, in his night of his funeral. No, the night.
Yeah, that's
right. Move on, caller. You try to get his band. We're still to pay our respects.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, Tommy, it's only hypothetical, and I didn't think it would be. I didn't think it would be appropriate.
Next one, move on. Next one. On you go. Crack on. Move on. Nothing to see here.
I think I've got circumstantial proof, as if I'm telling you what you already know, that Tony Blair knew about 9/11 beforehand, and therefore knew about the Iraq War beforehand. And it goes back to my earlier point on fixed-term parliaments and maximum-term parliaments.
But let's jump on to Dr. David Kelly, because that poor boy, I think, was murdered. A lot of people won't know that walking out the woods when the paramedics were walking in, they noted people in suits walking away from the scene. He could not possibly have cut himself and bled to death in that way unless he did it in a bathtub and allowed and allowed to bleed out, because the way he did it, it was not physically possible. So he was murdered. And can we say that it was the British agency that would have killed him, or it could have been any agency, but he was definitely killed at the behest of British government or even American government, would you suggest, Jonathan? Israeli even?
Well, there is a theory going on the internet that in the 1980s, Margaret Thatcher sent David Cameron and David Kelly to South Africa to negotiate the transfer of nuclear arms from the apartheid regime to the British government, and that he was possibly murdered because he knew too much about the nuclear weapons deals between the apartheid regime and Great Britain. And that these nuclear arms that South Africa may or may not have had may have been supplied by Israel.
Oh, they most definitely were. They most definitely were supplied by Israel. There was, I'm sure Noam Chomsky spoke about it in his book, World Orders Old and New. I can't remember it verbatim, but I know in the way they did it, right? Because and they did this in many countries who had a ban on bringing weapons in. So what they would do, they would export. I mean, they would do it so brazenly, and they really wouldn't give a shit. But it helped him circumnavigate the laws that they would put in place in their own country. So, well, they would say, "Oh, we can't ship weapons to Saddam Hussein and you know, and whatever." But then they got their gendarme, they got their puppet France to go in and do it to them. But if they've not got any puppet like that they can trust, then, you know, they've got other client states that they can use. And I might be wrong in using it out, but one of the client states, Jonathan, one of the client states that they used, I think, in South Africa, and they certainly used it in the United Nations for any type of votes. It was El Salvador, and maybe, you know, and one or two other governments that they could use, and then they would export these weapons of mass destruction to one country, and then obviously that country would then send it back to the country where the blockade was on. So thus circumnavigating their own stupid bans or blockades, you know. So possibly, you know, yeah, Dr. David Kelly could have known the paper trail too much for a number of places, South Africa included. Yeah. You know, and if Israel, maybe some of the weaponry came through, well, a lot of the weapons of mass destruction, the funding that America gives to the Israelis. So quite possibly, instead of America giving all the weaponry to the apartheid regime, they would just give it to their client state, Israel, and then they would just pass it straight on down, you know, to South Africa.
What you've mentioned, there are two sort of related spin-offs to that. The first being Lockerbie, who was really responsible for Lockerbie,
Indeed.
And also the mysterious death of that Canadian arms dealer who was building the supergun for Iraq.
That's right. When was that? How long ago was that? It was a good while ago, wasn't it?
That would have been 1989. He was assassinated in London, and he was a Canadian arms dealer who had worked with Israel, South Africa, the United States. He'd done a prison term in the United States for some sort of arms embargo infraction. And then out of hatred for the US, he went to work for Iraq and did the prototype of the supergun called Baby Babylon, which was like this cannon in the desert that could fire missiles 200 miles away, in the case of Baby Babylon, the prototype, and 1,000 miles away, as far as Tel Aviv, with the final supergun. And just before the supergun was ready to be shipped to Iraq, the British authorities impounded the components, and this arms dealer was killed. And it's not known, was he killed by Mossad, was he killed by the Americans or the British, or was he even killed by the Iraqis for knowing too much?
And another conspiracy added on to that, kind of similar, and related to Dr. David Kelly. A lot of people of his background who had a specialist knowledge of, biological weaponry and what have you. A lot of these chemists, for want of a better phrase, they're just glorified chemists. They've all been come under attack from a period of a good few years before Dr. David Kelly, but a good number of them have been killed, thus stopping future generation or future people knowing their secrets. So, you know, if there was, say,
what you're describing sounds very much like what happened in the original mini-series of V, where the reptilian aliens in their started a campaign against